Hello everyone, I'm here for Fiiber and this is my review of the OPPO Reno 80. Okay, let's do a retake, sorry. Hello everyone, I'm here for Fiiber and this is my review of the Vivo V29e. So there's no beating around the bush that this one right here, the Vivo V29e, is a rebadged version of the OPPO Reno 80. However, for better or for worse, this phone still does a few things differently than the Reno 80. Obviously, the color options are different here. There's a red and a blue. The battery capacity is higher on the V29e by 200 mAh, that is 5000 mAh capacity, but charging is comparatively slower at 44 watts versus 67 watt on the Reno 80. The camera setup is also different. I'm glad there are only two rear cameras, a 64 megapixel primary OIS camera and an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. Thankfully, there's no useless 2 megapixel sensor on the Vivo V29e. And the final thing, which is not exactly a thing but a change that I'm expecting, is the fact that this phone right here could be priced for under 30,000 rupees. Now, as of recording this video, I don't have the official price of the V29e, but I believe and I hope that this phone does undercut the Reno 80 in terms of pricing. So with everything considered, who should get the Vivo V29e? And most importantly, if there's a choice between the Reno 80 and the V29e, which one should you pick? Let's find out. But of course, before we get on with the rest of the episode, consider hitting that red subscribe button for detailed tech videos and also turn on the bell so that you don't miss any of our latest updates. With that said, let's get started. So if looks are your sole concern and if your budget is around 30,000 rupees, under 30,000 rupees actually, in that case, the Vivo V29e is a looker. Of course, looks are subjective, but I think I can say for most people here that the Vivo V29e will appeal to a lot of folks, and the phone is a head turner, guys. The phone is slim, very light for its size, and has the curves front and back for that handy grip. I mean, Vivo has definitely nailed the design bit here, or should I say OPPO nailed it before, but nonetheless, the Vivo V29e looks every bit striking from the rear and front, and the front has quite the slim bezels too. Apart from this, the usual stuff, that is the button placement, is exactly at the place I want them and has superb tactile feedback. The fingerprint reader is fast and responsive, although a higher placement would have been much appreciated. And overall, in terms of design and looks, the Vivo V29e scores full marks. Yes, the frame is plastic here and not metal, but the reflective polish does give it a premium finesse. Now, in terms of design, I would personally give the edge here to the Vivo V29e over the Reno 80. Now, I know that both phones are quite slim, sleek, they're lightweight, but when it comes to the colors, I think the colors are done better on the V29e over the Reno 80. But yes, that is my personal preference. You can also let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, this right here is a 10-bit 6.78 inches Full HD Plus AMOLED display that refreshes at 120 Hz, has a touch sampling rate of up to 1200 Hz. There's PWM dimming of 360 Hz and a peak brightness of 1300 nits. How's the quality and performance? Well, a mixed bag. You see, just like the Reno 80, having the 10-bit colors and fast refresh rate results in a delightful visual and scrolling experience. In fact, in our proprietary display test, I found the display to be quite vibrant. It was nice and bright. You get inky blacks, plus the contrast is very good. However, if you're a multimedia enthusiast and beyond your usual social media and browsing, you use your phone for consuming video content, let me tell you, there's no HDR10 video playback support, which is a bummer for a sub 30,000 rupees phone. On top of this, there's a single speaker setup, so no stereo speakers, which means while the audio gets fine and loud, and by loud I mean super loud, as there's an audio booster mode here. But yes, overall I think it lacks the depth and fullness of a stereo speaker setup. Just listen.
एकदम मस्त
यार मौसम लेकिन अजीब सा हो रहा है, कभी गर्मी हो रही है, इतनी ह्यूमिडिटी हो रही है।
पता है मजे की बात ये है कि वेदर फोरकास्ट जो था वो
You see, the Vivo V29e has a nice and vibrant display, but at this price point they should have definitely figured out the HDR10 support, and the single speaker setup that you are getting here, well, it just doesn't cut it at this price point anymore. The Vivo V29e is powered by the Snapdragon 695 SoC coupled with 8GB RAM and up to 256GB storage. At the heart, there's FunTouch OS 13 atop Android 13. Now, performance-wise, when it comes to handling your general stuff, in those cases, the Vivo V29e is A1. However, put some significant load on the smartphone and the hardware starts to struggle. You see, unlike other brands under BBK, Vivo's software approach with FunTouch OS feels distinctive. Right from the look and feel to the animations and transitions, FunTouch OS runs light and snappy, plus all the core Android 13's features, customization options, privacy features, and the likes are all present in FunTouch OS, so that is sorted. Now, one nitpick here with the phone software or with the software on Android phones in general in this budget is bloatware, and while the situation is not that bad on FunTouch OS 13, there were some pre-installed unnecessary apps, but the good part is most of it you can still uninstall. Okay, general performance wise, no problems whatsoever. In fact, before I give you all the details, here's a look at the AnTuTu and Geekbench scores of the Vivo V29e. Now, looking at the AnTuTu scores of this phone compared with the iQOO Neo 7, and as you can see, the iQOO Neo 7 scored more than twice. Mind you, the Vivo V29e is expected to cost around what iQOO Neo 7 currently costs. Similarly, in Geekbench scores, while the single core score is fine, I would say, and mind you, this suggests that the phone is pretty apt at handling general tasks such as opening and closing apps, basic browsing, texting, etc. The multi-core performance is where it falters. You know, the gist of the matter is that the iQOO Neo 7 features the Dimensity 8200 chipset under the hood, which is far more powerful than the Snapdragon 695 SoC. And using the Snapdragon 695 SoC is not a problem, but using it in a sub 30,000 rupee smartphone, that's where the problem lies. So while this phone is able to handle general tasks with ease, such as the phone would be okay when it comes to browsing, texting, calling, basic multitasking and stuff, the problem lies with heavy lifting. Yes, the Vivo V29e was able to run Call of Duty Mobile at max FPS and high graphics, or you can opt for 60 FPS performance with very high graphics. The thing is, over prolonged usage, the performance does throttle and the phone tends to get warm and the normal stutters and lags become quite apparent. So definitely a thumbs up for handling the general tasks, but put some significant load on the phone and that's where the problem starts showing. Now, battery wise, there's a 5000 mAh cell under the hood with 44 watt fast charging. First up, the charging speeds, and I would say from today's standards, they are okay. So a 50% charge takes about 30 minutes on the Vivo V29e, while a full 0 to 100% charge takes about 75 minutes. So definitely not the fastest as you usually see on OnePlus smartphones, but definitely not as slow as Samsung phones in this price segment. As for endurance, the Vivo V29e is easily a one-day smartphone. In fact, with moderate usage, which involves normal calling, texting, using social media and watching a couple of hours of video, the phone can easily last a day, sometimes a day and a half. For perspective, an hour of YouTube video playback drained about 4% of battery, about 2 hours of Netflix with audio set at 70% volume drained about 11% of battery, while an hour of Call of Duty Mobile drained about 14% of battery. Again, note that unless and until you're not pushing the boundaries here, that is, you play a lot of graphics intensive games or you use the camera a lot, if you don't do those things, then in that case, the Vivo V29e's endurance should hold up just fine. Alright, it is now time to talk about the camera, and one thing has really disappointed me with the Vivo V29e, and it is the fact that there's no 4K recording support on the smartphone, not on the front, not on the rear. And the reason behind this is the Snapdragon 695 chipset, because the Snapdragon 695 is only limited to 1080p video support. Anyway, moving on, you get two rear cameras on the Vivo V29e. There's a 64 megapixel primary OIS camera coupled with an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. The front is graced with a 50 megapixel selfie snapper. So if you're a fan of lively colors in your photos, or colors that look vivid but are not oversaturated, then you're going to love the photos that are clicked on the Vivo V29e in daylight scenarios. Here are some samples. Now what I love about this photo is the fact that I was directly facing the sun here, but despite that the highlights on my forehead are well controlled, something that I've seen many phones struggle with to get it right. And also, if you can see, yes, this is a portrait mode shot, and undoubtedly if the conditions are right, the Vivo V29e takes some amazing portrait photos. Similarly in this photo as well, again my head is tilted towards the sun, but still the way Vivo V29e has controlled the highlights and exposed the overall shot, it looks quite good. Even general photos that are not portrait shots look crisp, detailed and just the right amount of vibrant. But otherwise also, given good light, you can rest assured that the Vivo V29e's primary camera would not disappoint, and I am saying this for shots taken indoors as well as outdoors. However, when it comes to the ultra wide angle camera, as you can see side by side with the primary camera's shot, the performance is plain average. First up, the color disparity is quite apparent. The color temperature goes for a toss, and more importantly, the details are quite poor. In my opinion, if someone does purchase this smartphone, then I would suggest save yourself the trouble and don't use the ultra wide angle camera. Simply use the primary camera because it gives you better colors, better details and the better overall images in a variety of lighting conditions. Okay, moving on to the photos taken in dim light, and they are a mixed bag. For example, this photo looks nice and colorful with good contrast and details, or this photo where again the lights within the text are exposed properly, everything looks well in control and even the sky looks fine. But just in case you don't have ample supporting environmental light around, such as you can see in the case of this image, the dark areas look quite crunched, or sometimes when everything is right, but still you can end up with a photo that has washed out colors such as this photo. So as I said, photos taken in dim light are a mixed bag. I mean, if there's a decent amount of light around, then you can expect to see good photos, but if there's not much of an environmental light around, well, don't expect much. Now selfies, both normal as well as portrait ones captured in broad daylight, look quite good. However, HDR performance certainly needs some tuning, especially when clicking directly against a bright light source, as seen in this photo where I'm standing right in front of the sun. And by the way, the camera struggles with the HDR selfies taken at night also, so Vivo, definitely some tuning is needed here. Now the video samples. So right now I'm shooting from the rear camera of the Vivo V29e. You can shoot up to 1080p 60 fps videos from this rear camera of this phone. I mean, there's no 4K recording. That is kind of sad, because some newer phones such as the Galaxy F54 or even older phones such as the Pixel 6a have 4K recording, but sadly there's no 4K recording on this phone. But despite that, I think so colors look fine. I mean, they look a bit boosted, but you know, they look gorgeous if I have to be honest. Stabilization, despite OIS being present, I think so it could have been better. I mean, stabilization is not on point despite the OIS being present, but overall yes, this is the kind of quality that you get with the Vivo V29e. What do you think about it? How do you find the stabilization, and how does my audio sound? Let me know in the comments. And next up is the selfie video. Again, there is no 4K recording from the front camera as well, and on the front camera you can only shoot up to 1080p 30 fps videos. This is the kind of quality that you get. Of course, doesn't do a fine job when it comes to maintaining the highlights. As you can see, my forehead is quite, you know, you can see these parts, the blotching. So yeah, 4K 1080p 30 fps video from the front camera could have been again better. Stabilization is all right, colors look fine. The performance definitely could have been better, but you let me know, what do you think about the overall quality? How does my audio sound? How does the overall quality look like in the comments? And next up is the verdict. So with everything said, should you buy the Vivo V29e for a budget of about 30,000 rupees? Or let me put it this way, who should buy the Vivo V29e? Well, not an easy answer, but still let me try to answer it for you. So despite the phone's shortcomings in regard to the Snapdragon 695 chip, the subpar performance when it comes to handling heavy games, no 4K recording support, and especially the price, the Vivo V29e will still appeal to a lot of folks who desire a sleek and stylish smartphone. And this is because in terms of looks, the Vivo V29e scores big. Then for handling general tasks, the phone is pretty apt. It also clicks good photos for the most part that are social media worthy, and the display, despite not having the HDR playback support, which by the way can be added via software patch, is gorgeous and vibrant to say the least. So if you do decide to get the Vivo V29e, just note that that you are only getting this phone for the styling and profiling, because if pure performance is what you seek, then you are better off with other alternatives in the price segment such as the POCO F5 or even the iQOO Neo 7. Fiiber rates the Vivo V29e a 7 out of 10. Rest, let me know your thoughts about the smartphone in the comments below, and as always, for all the latest in tech, stay tuned to Fiiber. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you for watching.